Third gen 4Runner owners. So this video is going to be my attempt to convert my 97 center dash to this one that I just picked up today. It's out of a 99. So I'm going to try to convert everything from here and get this to function. Key importance is that I have all the wiring harness for it, and I also have the split vent, which is different from the 97 because the two vents are on the right hand side, whereas the 99 to 2002 is split to left and right, so you need this vent. And so my attempt will be to convert all the wiring and get this to work. Now my main reason for doing this is not so much that I like this design more or anything, it's that if you see, it's getting crowded here. I have the rear window, I have my ECT, and because I did the center console mod, I had to move all the switches over here. But now I'm running out of space and I want to put some more switches. So that's why I want to have some of those switches up here and free up at least two of them on my left side. Here I am prepping for the upgrade to the center console center dash. Mifi is just wondering if I know what I'm doing, just to make sure I'm not damaging anything. Started taking notes on the wiring of the C23 harness or control connectors, and also the C24, which is this orange one. Got a bunch of labels on all the wiring. Don't think I'm gonna do the defrost. I think I'm just gonna use the 97 defrost button and place it somewhere. It's just too much work and I'm not very good at soldering. In fact, I suck at soldering, so I'll probably mess this up if I try it. Everything else, as mentioned in the post by Leon, is pretty straightforward. Got all these things listed. This came from a limited, so it's got the security and passenger. So I'm gonna try to use these two lights for some purpose, not sure what yet. So here's the prepping that I'm doing before I really get into it. Mifi is also my QA cat, and so she's just checking the wiring that I've done. I'm also looking at wiring diagrams just to make sure I have the connector set. So this is the Defogger, but I'm not gonna use that. And here is a hazard. I have the ECT ready, info about the coloring of the C23, the back window wiring, and all to install one of these in my 97. One thing that you'll need to decide on before you start the swap. This is the 97 SR5. This is the 99 Limited. So one thing you'll have to decide is what to do about the defogger. Now this is the one that belongs on the 97. It goes up here, but on the 99 it's in this center connector. Two things you can do. One is you can try to wire this, but you'll still have to use the 97, and it's kind of complicated taking this apart, soldering 3 wires to this, connecting this to this, and that's not something I want to get into. I'm not very good, especially at soldering PCBs, so I'm going to stay away from that. The other thing you can do, and what I'm going to do, is I'm going to put this switch here. And what I've done is I've used a little liquid paper. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this piece back there and just use the default or the 97 Defogger switch. And not. First step, I'm going to take this little drill, tiny drill bit, and drill 4 little holes here on each of the corner, or 3 holes since this already has a hole. And I'm going to drill 3 holes. Then I'm going to use this little Dremel tool and cut out that rectangle in the back. Now that I've drilled the 3 holes, I'm going to use this little Dremel-like tool. It's got a metal cutting wheel, and I'm going to start cutting out the rectangular piece on this. So here's the rectangle that I notched to fit this piece, and you can see I'm fitting it backwards obviously, but it does fit in there pretty snug. Now there are notches on the switch on the top and bottom, so when you slide this piece in, you also need to drill a little space for the notch. Now one thing is you use this to kind of cut the rectangle, but make sure you cut it a little smaller than this, and then you go in with a utility blade and you slowly trim the sides to get it to fit exactly the way it needs to be fitted. It's that saying, you can always take off more, but you can never add back once you take too much off. Alright, that took a little bit longer than I thought it would, but now it fits pretty well in there. One thing I had to do is trim this area, because if you can see, it's a little sharp there. This one I rounded it out because the edges here are round, so it wasn't sitting quite as flush, but after I trim that, it fits pretty nice. What I'm also going to do is just put a little bit of Gorilla Glue here and on the top, just to keep it a little more stable. It's pretty stable right now. I can't pull it out easily, but just to make it a little more secure. And also I'm going to put just a little bit so that if I ever need to take this switch off or change the light bulbs on the bottom, then I can do that. Next step would be to take this cigarette lighter and put one of these USB ports in there. Now this is just a little bit bigger than this, so I'm gonna take my tool, my rotary tool again, and use this to widen the circle. I'm already gonna have two cigarette plugs here, so don't need 3. So I'm gonna put this one instead. USB port is fully installed. Didn't need to take out much. The first step in doing the swap is to repin the hazard switch. This is the one on the 97. This plug is, or this connector is B6. And here's the diagram I'm using to repin it from the 97 to the 99. And so I'm going to be using this little tool. I don't know where I got this from. I just found this in one of my bags. I have no idea, but it's a little sharp tool that you can use to get in and take out all the wires to this connector when I'm sitting at my desk. But right now this is what I'm going to be doing. By the way, the battery to the car is unplugged, so first and foremost make sure you unplug that so you don't fry anything. Alright, so they're all out. Takes a little bit of finesse and just feeling with this tool to eventually get it to come out. But once you do the first few, it becomes pretty straightforward. So now, take my diagram. Make sure I have the orientation correct. Okay, so it plugs in this way to the hazard. And so going from left to right, top to bottom, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 through 10. First spot is a green black wire. So I'm gonna look for the green black wire. Green black stripe, okay. Plug that in. Number 2 is green with the yellow stripe. Green with yellow stripe. Number 3 is an empty slot. Number 4 is blue with a red stripe. Okay, so the top row is done. Bottom row, 5th spot is green with a red stripe. It also doesn't help that I'm a little colorblind. So all these colors and their little stripes makes it really difficult for me. Number 6 is blue, white. Okay, so number 7 is red with black stripe. And 7, 8, and 9 are actually thinner wires than the first 5, which are a little thicker gauge wires. I'm assuming it's because they carry different amperages, but not sure what exactly they're carrying. Number 8 is green, solid green. And number 9, the last one that's going to be used, is white with green stripe. Okay. So everything is in. I'm going to double check just because, like I said, I'm a little colorblind, so I don't want to mess up. So number 1 is green, black stripe. Green, black stripe. Next one is green, yellow stripe. Number 2. Number 3 is blank. Number 4 is blue, red stripe. Number 5 is green, red stripe. 6 is blue, white. 7 is red, black. 8 is solid green, and 9 is white with green stripe. Okay, hopefully that is correct. I'm gonna snap the piece back in here, so everything should be good to go. I have my switch on. I'm gonna test to make sure that the switch works. By the way, if you didn't know, your turn signals won't work if this isn't plugged in for some reason. So car's not on, there's no key in, but plugged it in, and so I see left and right flashers. I'm gonna go outside the car just to check. Okay, hazard switch is working. The next switch to adjust is the ECT, the electronically controlled transmission button. By the way, I've had my 97 4Runner since 2017, so 4 years now. I've driven it through so many different situations and conditions on the road, and I've never figured out what this does. I've tried it in so many times, in so many situations, but I've never noticed any improvements or gains. So I would love to hear if someone else has actually seen a tangible benefit from that switch. But I'm still gonna do it. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of cutting the wire and soldering the existing wire to the connector, I took the pins out. Same process as I did earlier with the hazard switches. I want to save these in case I ever have to put the switch back in. I don't know if that's ever gonna really happen, but I just don't want to cut it and solder it. So what I did is I took the pins out, and with the pins I just split them open a little. Take a shrink wrap, luckily the ECT connectors, at least the colors are the same, so you don't have to guess. And I slide them through the middle, crimp them a little. You can decide if you want to do this or if you want to solder, which is a stronger bond, but in all the changes I've done to my wiring for this car, I rarely solder, and I've never had a connection issue. But I'm gonna do this, put it over a shrink wrap, and then I'm gonna tie them together so that there isn't any strain on that one specific area. So last one is green to green. Put a shrink wrap over it. You should definitely always shrink wrap, of course. And you can decide, since you're an adult, what you want to do in terms of soldering or not. And I'm tugging on it a little just to see if it's loose or not. And if it's a little loose, I'm going to crimp it a little more. Okay, this feels pretty good. Alright, so I got my 4 ECT wires connected. I'm just gonna make sure that the colors match. Knowing my eyes. Okay, they look like they match. Now to test if the ECT is working, so let's see if I can. Camera off. Hopefully you can see that is on. By the way, I give props to people that film themselves doing things in their car in terms of repair. It is a pain in the you know what to do it effectively. So anyways, button's working. Okay, next step is the rear window. So what I'm gonna do is, once again, take the pins out. Now, according to the diagram, there are 5 wires on the original 97 connector, but the switch only requires 3 of them. The red with black stripe, the solid red, and then there is a blue with white striping. And so on the original 97 one, you only need green with black stripe, light green with black stripe, and red with black stripe. So the 3 that have the black stripes on them are the ones that need to be taken out. Okay, so these are the 3 that are needed. The other 2 are related to the light that you get in the rear switch. So there's a light in here, which is usually busted anyways, but there's a light in the switch. But in this, there's already a light bulb in the back, so the wires that feed into this will automatically light both this switch and these 2. So there are 2 bulbs in here, which a lot of times both bulbs are blown. So I actually ordered a pair on Amazon, and they're called Neo Wedges T3 that I should be getting tomorrow, that I'm gonna be putting in the back of these 2, and hopefully that will solve the issue. So same process as before. I'm gonna get some weatherproofing shrink wrap. The light blue, or actually it's not even light blue, it's just blue with the white stripe, connects to the green blue or green black. green, black, blue with white stripe. So the solid red from here goes to the red with black stripe. That's kind of weird because there's also a solid, or there's also a red with black stripe on here, but instead of going to the red and black stripe on the original, it goes, according to the schematic, to the light green with black stripe. Okay, so plug it in. I think everything else is unplugged. And I'm gonna turn on the power again. And as you can see, window is working. Okay, so since I've confirmed that, I'm gonna get the heat gun and shrink wrap these 3 wires. One thing that I noticed when I first picked up this trim is that the climate control faceplate is a little bit wider than this opening. On the 97, it fits perfectly, of course, but this one is just a little wider, so you can see it doesn't quite fit in flush. Now, no one's mentioned it in any of the readings that I've seen, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim the pieces off on the edges where I marked it with a silver Sharpie and see how that helps or hurts it. Little trimming was all that was required. Trim maybe 2 millimeters here and 2 millimeters there. Now it sits perfectly. Now that I have finished everything, I'm gonna try to put everything back together and you can see how it goes. First, it's the double vent. So you just pop it in, and then there's one screw on the bottom here. And since it's going into plastic, you don't want to screw it in too much or you start stripping it, but okay. Next, I'm gonna just make sure all my connections are set. So I'm going to start from the bottom. I have the 2 cigarette plugs. I have my defrost and my USB outlet. So I need to make sure those 4 things are plugged in. Now I've tested all of these components before I am doing this install, just to make sure there's nothing missing. Okay, that was a bit of a struggle, but it's working now. So let me just show you what everything looks like. So here's a look at everything. You have ECT, Windows, working. Didn't wire these two. I was gonna do the security, but I actually already moved it to the side right here. I just drilled a hole and put that in. If I didn't do that, I would have used this, and then this passenger is another light. It's a little passenger light that I don't have. Might use it in the future for something, but not really doing that right now. And here's the bottom. So you can barely see the little light. But it is working. I hear the relay clicking on. Here's the USB port. And then the 2 SIG lighters. And this is also a on-demand rear view cam. So instead of turning the rear view cam on and off when you shift to reverse, this just turns on and off based on that little button I have there. It's really nice since a lot of times I don't really need the rear view cam. Okay, so that is it. Here I'm just showing you the difference between a 99 limited on top and a 99 SR5 on the bottom.